Hello, I am Modular, and welcome back to Satisfactory Update 1.2. In this new playthrough, I have cranked up the difficulty and my space elevator costs 100 times the normal amount, and every machine takes 5 times the power to run. I had no idea what this would turn into, and 30 hours in, this is by far the craziest starting factory I have ever built. I am using some extreme underclocking to bring down the power costs. Blueprints are the only way this isn't a total nightmare to build, and due to all of it being load balanced, it thankfully doesn't take ages to get up and running. But not all of these towers are turned on. To do that and be able to run more, I need more power. I'm using 2 nodes over here in the lake, and there is some more water, but I want an area with a lot more, where I can really scale up my power. Like most videos in the early game, today we start off at the hub. It's time to turn in another milestone. Finally gonna get myself some power towers.
After several pioneers started exhibiting traumatic responses to power blackouts,
Forgot about that part.
mitigation tools recommended by your local therapist.
We'll just pretend that didn't
Cold
happen.
Storages can hold
Alright, well I think we should start with just one right here in the corner. These are just such a great pairing. The power tower and the zip line. Oh, it's amazing. But first we gotta get them set up. So we are now gonna head out this way. Alright, so I'll probably end up repositioning these before I actually start using them, but for right now, that's good enough. Makes it easy to get from the main factory out to the coast. And this was another spot that I prepped while I was waiting for the Phase 1 space elevator parts to finish. You know, there are little bits of water down there, and you can actually squeeze a surprising amount of water extractors into those lakes. But this is going to be just so much easier to work with. So right now my thinking is down here is obviously where I'm going to put all of the coal generators, and then that way I can just have the water extractors just on the same level basically. Don't need any pumps this way. They didn't used to cost a lot, but now at 20 megawatts a piece, I really would like to try not to use too many pumps. So if I've got all of the coal generators right there, I need to get the coal over here. The best solution right here, especially in this safe, would probably just be to belt it. But where is the fun in that? I really want to try to use vehicles in this playthrough. I've really avoided them in pretty much all of my ones in the past, but now that they've gotten some love, I think this is the perfect time to finally incorporate them.
Unlike some pioneers, truck stations care about saving humanity.
Alright, good to know. So I am just going to be using tractors right now, and so I could be using the tractor vehicle path because I think it actually will turn quite a bit sharper than the universal. But I'm just going to use the universal, because what if I end up using trucks? Alright, so we're going to come out of here, and for this very first set of paths, we are not going to build a road. Even though I probably have the concrete to do it, I really want to just see how they do on the ground. And what better time to do it is in the early game, where it doesn't matter as much. And later on, I think it'll make way more sense to build roads, because they'll just be more efficient that way, probably be able to travel faster. But for now, I think we can just use the ground. So this is definitely going to be a little bit of trial and error to try to actually get it through. Well, some of these parts are going to be a lot easier than the others. This part I want to use the main road for, and this is where they'll be going back. And we'll just make a big loop around this giant pillar thing. It's about to, here he is. But the idea is that vehicles are going to come this way. Right to here. And this is where we will build the other one. Start craft up a few more modular frames. And this one's going to go somewhere over here. And then I've got my 2 coal nodes that I've had miners on for a while. So we've got this one So if I overclock, I think these are both pure nodes. So if I overclock both of these to 270, probably just run this on the ceiling here. I'll figure out a way to get that over to here and hopefully not block this whole way just in case I need to use it. Let me finish this vehicle path and get the coal belted over, and we'll go from there. Alright, so I still need to get the coal belted over, but I've got my truck path here, and I set up a second truck station just because I'm not sure what the throughput is on one tractor because it's been so long since I've used vehicles, I'm just not familiar. So I have this ready just in case, but hopefully I can get away with only using one. We've got both sides of the truck path set up. So if we look on the map, it's a little bit easier to see the whole thing. So from here, they basically go up, and then they'll initially go this way and go to the truck station, and then head out this way, head up with the same path, and head back. So it's not too far, but like I said, I just really have no idea. Let's go ahead and head out to the coast. Over here on the coast, I've obviously made a little bit of a change. I just wasn't going to have enough room for the truck station down here. And the more I got thinking of it, this is a lot of water and a lot of empty space. I could really expand on this past those two coal nodes eventually. So instead of trying to get everything cramped into that little bit of area, just give myself more room and dedicate it to the trucks. The added benefit is now I've got a place to do any bit of load balancing I need to do. Because I'm going to be using some of the coal from those miners to power the tractor, so I can't rely on the full 270 that I'm getting out of the miners to be able to fuel my gens. My plan right now, and I'm crossing my fingers that this works out, is I'm going to count on 240. I'm really hoping that leftover 30 coal per minute is enough to power the tractor or tractors if I need to. So let's get this next part started. Placing the coal gens. Alright, so I think if I give myself one foundation here in the back, that should be good, and if I need, I could add more, but this should be plenty of space. 2 foundations should be plenty to do any of the load balancing for the belt work. And there's the first 8. And of course, I'm out of materials. Really should use the to-do list more. It's so handy. Let me grab some more materials and finish placing the rest of these. It's going to be 2 groups of the 8 blueprints. That gives me my 16, which is enough to deal with the 240 coal that I'm really hoping I get out of this. Thankfully, I remembered to grab the materials for all the water extractors as well. Now, it's all placed. And the load balancing is nice and simple since they're already paired up in 2s. We just pair up each of those. Since we're working with 8, that's nice and simple. So in the very center of each of these groups is where I added a little gap. And that way I could bring the belt in through the back and leave the back for all of my belt work to kind of keep going. Because like I said, I think I'm going to be able to expand this. And then for the truck stations, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get away with just one. So the second one is just here for the future, but right now it's not going to be used. And here I have a really basic, just a 2-to-2 load balancer. And this is just because whenever you're dealing with a truck station, a freight platform, a storage container, they don't work like splitters. If the truck station is full, then both of those belts are going to be completely full. But once you get down to only having 1 stack left in the truck station, it's usually going to prioritize one of the 2 outputs. And so by doing a 2-to-2 load balancer, if that happens, it doesn't matter which output it picks, it's going to spread them evenly between the 2, and then those are going to go into these blueprints. And here I just made a simple 240 with storage blueprint. So let me just grab this and place it up here. It'll be a little easier to see. From the truck station, it's going to plug into that input for the storage container. And then out of here, we've got a 270 belt, and then we split that into thirds. So we've got 90, 90, and 90. So right here, we've got 180. And then with this 90, we split that into thirds again. So we've got 30 and 30, and then this 30 loops all the way back into the storage container, leaving me with 240. And that way I can reliably count on the 240 going from here to the coal gens. And just to keep the wires kind of away and out of traffic, I just placed a bunch of beams so that I could place my cables up top. And the way the pathing works is the trucks will come in this way, and then they split off and then go to whichever truck station, and then they exit this way and head off on their way. The fact that the whole thing is green, I don't think is great, but, well, this is a learning experience, and I have a feeling I'm going to learn a lot. Alright, well, first thing, we need to start testing the tractor. So with this goal node, it's just going to go over to here, to the lift, and then up to the ceiling, and then that way I could use that. And it's not the prettiest thing. The save is going to be pretty in its own way, I guess. Alright, just need to connect these two, and then we'll get both of the miners going. And one of the miners is going into a splitter, and then that way it can feed the fuel. There's really not a way to load balance these, so this one belt is going to end up doing the stopping and starting thing. And this is why in the very beginning I said we were going to do all load balancing in the factories, because when it comes to fueling things, I don't think there is a way to accurately calculate the exact amount, especially if there's traffic, because I'm pretty sure the fuel is based on how long they run. Or maybe I'm wrong and there is a way. But when it comes to fueling trucks and drones and all that sort of thing, there's a good chance that this is what's going to happen. And that's okay. Small price to pay for getting to use my trucks. So let's get our little red tractor going. So I guess to start, we'll just take the fuel out of here and put it into the tractor. It's got fuel. Let's go to vehicle path. So we've got coal loading 1, and we're going to go to coal drop off 1. And let's see, what is it? So 43.03 per trip, 21.35 per minute. That's not actually too bad. So I'll definitely be able to get my 240 per minute. And then this is actually probably going to end up backing up eventually. That's all right. We need more power. And you know what? Let's go for a ride. Well, the teleporting was unexpected. Originally, when I was building this, I thought green meant good, but I think that means it's an intersection, and then I should probably change that in case I start adding more tractors. We'll see if it's a problem. And there's the moment of truth. Can it hold everything? Beautiful. Alright, so there's definitely some things that I noticed that I could improve. Like this right here. I bet you if I just flatten this. Oh, does that mean I need to redo it? Probably. There we go. I bet you that'll be a little bit smoother and it won't have to slow down as much now. Well, I'm sure there's going to be lots of little things like that that I could improve on. But so far, we've got one tractor. Look at him go. It's nice that you can use the natural roads, but I definitely see there being a huge advantage to building your own, because there are spots where it just slows down, and some of them definitely make sense, but there's others where I wasn't really sure why it slowed down so much. So yeah, in the future, I think when I use more vehicles, we'll make some dedicated roads for them. I let the tractor run a couple cycles, make sure everything was running right, and so far it looks good. And let's go downstairs and see if the balancer is working right. So we've got 1376, 1403, that's close enough. One belt is slightly shorter, so it started getting materials a little bit quicker. So it makes sense that that one has slightly more. I deleted these belts so that it wouldn't start feeding automatically, but now that we've built up a little bit of a stockpile here, this will be able to cover any of those slight gaps in timing. And here we go. Now it looks like we've got all of the coal gens and all of the water extractors staying online. Let's take a look at that power grid. Excellent. It went from 24 to 48. I do wish there was a little bit more actually available, but that's almost 1500. That's pretty good. And we'll just have those little blips of 100 megawatts every time the tractor docks. And doubling my power grid was as easy as that. Now that I have all of that available power, we get to enjoy the fruits of the labor of the last video and just go ahead and turn these ones on. On this lovely rainy day, let's go through these towers real quickly before we turn them on. So these towers are all feeding that direction, and then that way all of the storage containers can be much more closely grouped together, make it a little bit easier for me. This first row is the smelters. The 3 on the left are all doing copper, the one on the right is doing iron. Those all feed into these towers, which are all constructors. These first 2 towers are both going to be feeding to the last one, which is all assemblers. The one on the right here is making screws. The one on the left is making copper sheets. Those get merged and then re-split up into our tower of assemblers, and this will be producing 9 rotors per minute. For the other towers, this one will be making copper sheets. The far middle one here is going to be making wire. The output is then split. Half of it will go straight to my storage. The other half will go to the small stack of constructors and make the cable I need. I won't be making a lot, only 30 wire and 15 cable per minute. And with this playthrough, I really don't know if that's enough, especially on the scale that I've been building some of these things. In the past, those numbers have been more than fine. Once I go exploring for an hour or two and just kind of let things be, I build up enough of a stockpile that I just don't have to worry about them ever again. But things could definitely be different with this one. One of the great things about this whole setup is that I only need 2 miners. Let's go ahead and get the iron turned on. If we take a look, only 39 per minute, still uses 42 megawatts. Oh, these impure nodes are awful. Well, let's go over to the pure node and turn on the copper. With the copper, I need 106 per minute, but because it's a pure node, it's underclocked to 44%, so it only uses 25 megawatts. That is so much better. There they are, my first automated rotors. They're definitely going to come out in bunches. Let's go. Underclocking these by so much definitely affects the clock speed. Go figure. I mean, the power savings are fantastic. And once they're up and running, then I just have my consistent 9 a minute. But oh boy, 480 seconds. That is wild. Alright, copper sheets are running. Wire slowly but surely building up. And we've got some cable. I love being able to just zoom out and look at it all and just see all of these green lights. Beautiful. Taking a look at the power, still got a decent amount of headroom. So let's go ahead and build some more. Here is my plan for modular frames. I'm going to be making 6 a minute. I feel like that's probably going to be more than enough, to be honest. I'll be using the default iron ingot and iron plate recipes, but then we're using alternates. Again, the cast screw recipe is just so valuable to save. Same with the bolted iron plate and the bolted frames. And again, the advantage to these alternates is the production per machine, meaning it may cost me a little bit more iron, but it saves me a lot on power. So with this, I think I'm going to go back to having everything feed this direction, just so I can have the inputs right next to each other, make the belt work underneath a little bit easier, and modular frames will just kind of be off on their own. There's a number of things that use them, so obviously I need to automate them. Thankfully, these I'll probably go through a lot less than all of the other things I've automated so far. So this very first one is going to have 2. Alright, so as I was saying, the first tower is going to have 2. That's going to handle the 81 iron ingots I need for the plates. And then the second one here is going to deal with the cast screws. Well, the first set of cast screws. I'm actually going to do them as 2 separate pieces. So I think that will make things way easier. And thankfully, I only need 42 and 37.5 ingots. So I only need 1 stack of each of these blueprints. Alright, so let's start with this one here. We've got 2 stacks of blueprints, 18 each, so that's 36 smelters. I need 81 ingots divided by the 36 smelters, divided by the default rate of 30, multiply that by 100 for the percentage, so we're at 7.5%. Nice. As I'm gathering more resources, I realized I forgot to mention, I put in the awesome sink. So I used all of the smart splitters that I put in here. So when everything backs up, just to let everything continue to flow, everything will start going over to the sink, and that way I can start building up at least a little bit of the coupons. Those ingots are then going to feed right into a stack of constructors. These I need a few more of. So we're going to stack this one 3 high. These will be doing iron plates. Now the nice thing is, even though these rates are different, I can do the math with either one of these because I know both of these numbers. So if I wanted to work with the incoming rate, this would be 81 divided by the 36 machines, divided by the default rate of 30, multiply that by 100, and we get 7.5%. Now, if I were to do it with the end product, this is how it would look. I need 54 iron plates, divided by the 36 machines, divided by the default rate of 20 this time, and then multiply by 100. Still, we get our 7.5. As long as you know one of the 2 numbers, you can easily change the clock speed. Alright, now that we have the iron plates, let's go ahead and come over to this tower. And let's set the recipes. This is going to be feeding the cast screws that'll be making the reinforced iron plates. So I need 150, which means I need a whopping 37.5 iron ingots. So that'll be fun to deal with. I only have 18 machines because I really don't need that many. Divide by 30, divide by 100. This one blueprint will then feed into the set of 3. All of the constructors will be sets of 3. Like I said, cast screws. I need 150 across 36 machines. Normally they make 50. Multiply that by 100. Alright, so now each machine will only make 4 and, or was that 1/6? Not too bad. Alright, so now that I have my iron plates and my screws, let's go ahead and add another tower for the assemblers. And I think for this, I just need 2 of them, because these produce at a pretty high rate, so let's take a look. I only need 9 of them across 12 machines. Normally they produce 15 apiece. Apply that by 100, 5%. Yeah, I like that. Means I could have gotten away with just placing 1 of them and it would have been at 10%, but I like 5% even better. And load balancing across 2 blueprints is pretty easy. So now the plates and these screws will feed into there. And then all of these are going to feed into one more tower. Now, I have been kind of going in this direction, I guess south. But this time, I'm going to switch things up and we're going to go sideways from here. And this one is going to get stacked 4 tall. I just don't think I have the materials for it. So all of my reinforced iron plates will get grouped up here. And we can just send them this way. And then they're going to get load balanced into this tower. So let's set this recipe first. Oh, but of course, I need to actually grab that recipe. Thankfully, I've got the bolted frame right here. I'll be making a whopping 6 per minute divided by, I have 4 of these blueprints, 6 apiece, so 24 machines. Normally they make 5 apiece. Alright, so this is also going to get underclocked to 5%. That'll definitely help with the power. But for these, I need another set of screws. So those screws are going to be coming from this set. So just one more set of 3 of these, and of course I need some more materials. But we can set the recipes first at least. Alright, so for the smelter, more iron ingots. For this, 42. Alright, and with those set, let's do the constructor. More cast screws. With the recipe set, I just need some more materials. And then from here, we can add my storage. You can just add one of those. Actually, I'm going to need to push this out a little bit farther. I need to add one more merger so I can merge all of them. Then goes the storage. Terrific. Just need to grab a few more materials, but thankfully I have a ton of concrete. The only one I'm actually worried about is the cable. And then it's just the busy work of connecting the blueprints together, and then the simple belts going from one blueprint to the next. So let's go ahead and skip ahead again. Modular frames are ready to get turned on. But let's go on a quick little tour first. My little starter steel factory got backed up enough that I just turned everything off. And I'll probably need to turn that back on before I run out of steel beams, but steel pipes I am more than backed up on. And now I'm going to be repurposing these iron nodes for just the modular frames. This first one is overclocked just a little bit to 123. And this will feed the 2 different smelter towers, one that needs the 81, the other one that needs the 42 ore. The other guy over here, since this one's an impure, this one is just going to be taking care of that 37.5. As far as power goes, it would actually be even smarter to use one more node and then not do any load balancing, and then that way I could underclock all of the miners instead of the slightly overclocked for this one, but that just feels weird, and I don't know, maybe I'm going to need that iron node. As if there's not like 100 more on the map. But that was the decision I went with. And now let's follow the belts back. The 2 belts make their way across the grassy fields and then right underneath the factory. Once they get to here, we just go up some lifts. The 37.5 just goes all the way to the ceiling and then into its tower. The 123 then comes over here and enters in just a little load balancer. So we've got 123 entering into the first merger. I'm going to loop back 5 so that I can work with 128. Because 128, very easy number to work with. Because then what we can do is just split it in half over and over and over again. And then you just pick which side the amount needs to go to until you get all the way down until 1. And then I've got 81 on this side, 42 on this side. And then, oh, excuse the copper there. And then this belt right here is the 5 that loops back to that first merger. And then up top, it's pretty much the same thing I've been doing. So with the single towers, it's really easy. I just get to plug those straight in and there I go. Don't need to do any balancing. With 2 towers, really not hard. 3 towers is still very easy. And even 4 towers with the assemblers is really not too bad. The first set of splitters splits it in half, so this one goes to the halfway mark. And then basically you just have a mirrored version of everything past this point. So then this one splits in half, so half of it goes to this blueprint, the other half goes to the next blueprint. And then same thing up there. You just split that one in half. So far, everything's been pretty easy. But that won't last forever. I'm sure things are going to get more interesting in the next one. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have this monstrosity to get turned on. Let me head back to these iron nodes, and we'll get the stopwatch going. And here we go. And there they are, the first automated modular frames. I think that means I finally have all of the phase 1 items completely automated. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting something. I saved the modular frames to last because honestly, there's not a ton you need to use them for with the build gun anyways. But the few things you do need them for, you can use them in a large amount. Currently, that's the foundry, so that is probably the thing that could chew through these the fastest, to be honest. Mark II miners, you can only place so many of them. But now that I have them automated, it is much easier to build a few more truck stations and a couple more tractors. And thank you to everyone that has reminded me that geothermal does exist. I honestly do forget about it pretty much every single time. And I am going to utilize it this save, but just not quite yet. I've got a decent amount of circuit boards, but not a ton. Instead, I am just going to add more coal power. Alright, well if I want to add some more coal power, let's see where the closest coal is. There's one that way, but I think if we head to the arch, we can get a better scan here. Alright, let's try again from over here. There we go. Much better. So if we head to the other side of the arch here. Oh, I've never seen that happen. That's funny. Alright, so if we make it over here, now we can find the coal. So we've got one there, one up here, one there. There's another one. Oh, yep, right below me. One there. So we've got quite a bit of coal right out here. Now, unfortunately, there's really not a lot of water. Well, there's some, but I don't think that's going to be enough. And some of you are probably ready to ask me again, why are you not looking at compacted coal? So let's take a look at it. Just to make the numbers easy to deal with, I just went with 120 coal, so a Mark II belt for comparison. So if I have 120 coal and I just use the coal generators like normal, that'll feed 8 coal generators. And if you weren't going to go the underclocking route, that would be 3 water extractors. You would generate 600 power and it would cost 300 to power the water extractors. And then don't forget about the miner, and depending on what node and purity and all that jazz, that can change a little bit. So we'll just say we're going to net 300 and then just don't forget about the miner. For the compacted coal, I'll need 120 coal and then I'll also need 120 sulfur. That will take 4.8 assemblers at a cost of roughly 360 megawatts. But the big kicker is the water extractors. So the nice thing about compacted coal is it really kind of extends your coal. You can power a lot more generators with it. On the downside is, it also means I need a lot more water. So because I'm able to run more than twice as many coal generators, I can run 16.8 off this same 120 coal. I'll need 6.3 water extractors. So I put this spreadsheet together so it doesn't do the math super correctly or anything like that. This is just to give me a really rough estimate. So obviously with the assemblers, I would at a minimum place 5. But if I was going to stick with what I'm doing with the rest of them, then I would place 48 of them, and I could cut that from 360 to under 180. And so you do have the potential to make more power using the compacted coal. Because for every one of those steps that you decide to underclock, then you're getting that extra power available to use somewhere else. So underclocking that many water extractors is going to help, and you would probably end up netting more power than just using the regular coal. But in my mind, going through all of that work, it needs to be more of a benefit. So for now, I'm just sticking with basic coal power. Since all of the coal is back here, I'm going to belt that to the other side of this arch. I'm going to place a bunch of foundations, and on this new platform is where I'm going to place a few more truck stations. So I don't think it should be too hard to figure out a way to get some trucks to go from here and join up with that existing path, and then they'll just have to go a little bit farther. I say a little bit farther, it's almost double the distance going from here to there. So right now, this tractor is able to hold essentially 2 nodes worth, and be able to go back and forth. But with this long of a trip, I think I'm just going to have to give each node its own truck station and its own tractor. Let me get some foundations placed. We've got foundations and 3 new truck stations. And let me show you the path, because I went ahead and already figured that out. I wanted to use the terrain, but in some places I do need to use some ramps. So to get up to the platform, we've got some ramps here. And then this ramp here, we're going to see why we're doing this in a second. I don't think I actually need this corner piece because the tractor's, the wheels like halfway stick on the line and only barely stick out. So I don't really think I need this, but I wasn't sure. So I placed an extra corner piece there. Being, it's not very safe. All right, once we get to here, we won't see the path, but this is why we have this whole section. Since I have these iron belts going right across, I needed to be able to get up and over them. I guess I could have redone the belts instead, but I like this option. So we're driving on the right, so when they're going out to the coal generators, they're going to be going this way. And then we've got the first truck station, and so the paths are just going to merge up there. And then on the way back, it just splits off and comes up, and then back down, and then joins up with this path. I have to say, I really like the new pathing system because being able to lay these out, and now I've just got a whole bunch of infrastructure. I can just keep on adding more trucks and truck stations, and I've already got the road set. I don't have to keep re-recording new paths or anything. Oh, so great. Okay, so right now my plan is to take the pure nodes and any normal nodes, and those are going to go into truck stations. And then I'm going to use this impure node, which I'm crossing my fingers is going to provide enough to fuel all of these. And that way I can count on the full 270 out of those other nodes. And I'm going to use a separate node just to fuel the tractors. All right, and a lot of that boring stuff is out of the way. And now I've got 4 truck stations and all of the belts to get the coal there. So didn't make anything too fancy, just a whole lot of foundations and then just the belts right on top of them. Each one of these belts will have a full 270. And then the impure node is where I'm getting all of the coal to fuel the tractors. So that one is coming from just right over there. Make its way over here and then split between the 4 truck stations. And I can kind of get a rough estimate. So if I go to vehicle path, this one's going to go from the pickup 2 to drop off 2. And if we switch this to coal, the amount per trip really doesn't matter unless it's over 100 because it can only hold 100. If it's more, then that means I would need to fuel it on both sides. And that is something I definitely want to avoid here. 21.06 per minute, we'll see how accurate that is. But with 4 truck stations, that means I should easily be able to fuel all of this off of just the one impure node. I'm sure I'll probably still need to make some sort of change. But for right now, I've got the input side of everything more or less set. But if we take a look at the map, I still only have those 2 truck stations over here. So I need to add some more on this side. And then I need to add a whole bunch more coal generators. I knew it was going to happen, but I demolished my steel beam supply placing all of those belts. And so I had to restart this. I didn't change anything for the incoming amounts of ores or the ingots, but what I did decide to change is both of the constructors. Instead of one making steel beams and one making pipes, I'm completely full on pipes, so now all of the ingots are just going to beams. Means I'm getting a whopping 22.5 now. But hey, that's better than the 15. So now let me stock up for a whole bunch of these, and I'll see you out on the coast. Nice rainy day on the coast. My inventory is almost completely full. I've got most, it's not all of the items I need, but I'm not really too surprised having to grab some more. It's kind of what I expected. Forgot that I laid all of these without blueprints. And let the coal generator spam begin. I'm going to do the same thing where I place 4 and then I'm going to give myself a little bit of a gap so I can squeeze the belt in here. But the difference this time, instead of doing 4 and then 4, which would give me a total of 16 generators, I'm going to place one more. Because if I get the full 270 on the belt, and I divide that by 15, because that's how much each coal generator uses, I can place 18, which would be 9 sets of the blueprint. But that right there is one node. I just need to place a few more. Welcome back to the newly expanded coal power plant. Probably could have laid them out a little bit better, but I just kind of got carried away going in a straight line. And then at some point I realized I should probably go sideways. But again, this is all temporary. I definitely do not want to be using all of this coal for just coal power later on down the road. Once I can replace this, we're going to free it all up. So let's go on a quick tour. Things got changed up by just a little bit. I ended up adding one more truck station. So now there is a total of 6 over here. They all feed over to here, and then the lifts bring these ones down. And then those go into these 5 storage containers that'll act as a buffer. The belts aren't connected right now. That way I can get the tractors up and running, make sure everything looks good, and let a little bit of a buffer build up in all the storage containers. And then when I'm ready, I connect the belts. Then they head off on their way to the new coal generators, which already have the water extractors backed up. It felt more fitting, like it fit that industrial vibe a little bit more. I used just a whole bunch of the fences to make a window instead of windows. And I actually really like it. So the path is still the same over here. They come down, and then they make a left. They split off into whichever truck station they need to go to, and then they go over to the right side and then head off on their way. So let's head back over to the other side, and I'll show you the few changes I made, and then we'll turn those coal miners on. Well, if I have 5 truck stations over at the drop-off site, it means I needed 5 over here. So we've got the 5th one added on that side. And for those tractors to get over there, they come all the way back here, and then they go up and over, because there's some rocks right here. And then they can go to whichever truck station they need. They come out the other side and merge back up. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. We just got to go up and over that one little bit of grass, but they'll be fine. And then they merge up with these ones, and then make their way to the coal generators. And let's make our way over here, and let me show you where all that coal is coming from. Didn't realize, because it didn't show up on the first ping, there was one more coal node out there. So I paired that one up with this one. Those are both impure nodes. The downside is I need 2 miners, which aren't the cheapest things to run, but I'm pretty sure it's still worth it. So we get those grouped up, and then we've got this miner, which is a 270. That one's a 270. That one and that one are both 270. The seed had a good amount of coal all right here. And then that last one over there is feeding all of them, and it should still be able to provide plenty. Let's head over to this one, and we'll get things started. Alright, first things first, we want to make sure that these things actually get fueled. Let's turn this one on. Let's just make a shortcut. And I'm just going to start with the farthest miner out and work our way back. Alright, and now that it's got, well, plenty, I'm just going to take a stack out. Really doesn't matter where it's from, because the first trip is not going to take a full load anyways. We just kind of need to get them all started. And I've already gone through and named everything, and I've got a tractor placed in front of each truck station. But now I just need to hit enable autopilot and watch them go. All right, I was able to grab everything, and it didn't need more than 100. Things are looking good so far. Well, the tractors are still doing some weird teleporting things, as we're gonna see with this one right here. Yeah, so not really sure what's causing that. Like I said, if you know, please let me know, and hopefully I can fix that for the future. My guess is they're just slightly too close together. It was gonna be really nice to be able to fit that many in. And when tractors are so small, it's so easy to do. I think it would probably make more sense to give them a little bit more space once I start using trucks. Yeah, maybe these are just a little bit too close, and they just do not want to come over to this side. I don't know why. I don't know what I did wrong. But hey, they all seem to be working. And now that they've got a little bit built up, let's go ahead and send it on over. And just like that, there's another 90 coal power generators online. As you can see, doing the load balancing for the belt work is really easy, since I needed 9 sets of the blueprints per 270 belt. So you just group up 3 of the pairs, and then you've got 3 of those groups of 3. But let's take a look at the most important numbers. Producing over 11,500 megawatts. That is awesome. And I'm finally above my max consumption. I think that may be the first time in this playthrough. Well, that feels good. It won't last long. But hey, I've got to enjoy the little things while I can. Alright, so I've got just over 3,000 megawatts to play with. Having half of the vehicle path already there and basically getting to just add on to it and then collect all the nodes, truck them over here. All of this, I mean, it did take time, but it really was pretty easy to do. I just have virtually no coal left in the grassy fields, but I have some extra power. That is going to do it for this one. I took my power production from 2,400 megawatts all the way up to 11,550 megawatts. After turning on the rest of the towers that were already built, I automated modular frames and now finally have all the phase 1 items headed to storage. Even with all of this power, it takes a lot to create it. I have about 3,000 megawatts to spare, which should be enough to finally get at least one of these space elevator parts going at a half decent rate. So look forward to that. And thanks for watching.